Well, hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am delighted that you decided to join us here for Adult Education and Family Literacy Week, one of our last events during the week. I'm Steve Schmidt. I'm the COA Professional Development Coordinator, and I'm really excited about our upcoming webinar. And I'm just going to provide a brief introduction to our two speakers, Lorri Benjamin and Eric Kohler, and we are delighted that they're going to be sharing their talents and discussing integrated education and training programs today. And let me introduce Lorri first. She is the Director of Adult and Community Education for the Brevard, Florida Public Schools. She's been with Brevard for 16 years, and she's had the opportunity to work in many different roles in that organization, including as an academic coach, as a coordinator for a high school STEAM magnet program. And Lorri continues to explore workforce opportunities to build dynamic, integrated, and education and training programs. And relationship building is a strength for Lorri with area business partners, as you'll see in this afternoon's presentation. And I'm also thrilled to introduce Eric Kohler, who has been with the Brevard Public Schools for 12 years. And he's taught in a variety of roles with exceptional students, middle grade science and biology. And he's held leadership roles, including that of Dean of Students and Learning Specialist. But currently, he is the Assistant Director of Brevard Adult and Community Education. And as you'll see throughout the webinar, he is passionate about helping individuals transform their lives through education. And we're thrilled to have Lorri and Eric with us this afternoon. I know you're going to be in for a wonderful webinar. We select these webinars based on their the strong evaluations we received for them during the conference, and this was a very highly rated session. So we're thrilled to have Lorri and Eric. And please, if you haven't already in the chat, if you'd introduce yourselves. And without further ado, I will turn this over to Lorri and Eric. And thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it. Well, we're very excited to be here. Eric is going to share our PowerPoint, and we're going to get excited because I will tell you, I am extremely excited about integrated educational training, and as is Eric. And so we're going to share our collaboration and how it worked. We're going to share the do's and maybe even some of the don'ts to save you from some of the things that we did that we learned along the way. But we're excited to have everyone with us, and we're excited to hear your feedback and to share a little bit with you. So with that started, Eric, you can move to the next slide.
Okay.
Obviously, there's us, and thank you for that introduction, Steve. We've got an agenda up there to go over, basically to give you an overview of the things that we're going to share. A little bit about us, Brevard Adult and Community Education, which we call ourselves BACE, about IET programs and that community engagement piece we're talking about. We are going to share a little bit about adult education and family literacy because it is Family Literacy Week. We are going to focus on our pre-apprenticeship IET pathways, and Eric's going to share some of those cohort analysis because we are big on sharing data because data drives instruction, and we share good data and data that probably sometimes people don't want to share, but you learn from your data, and so we're going to share that with you. And we are really unique with our pre-apprenticeship IETs here in Brevard, even in the state of Florida. We've gotten some of our partners in the state of Florida to take on this pathway the way we have done it because we have had some success in that area. We'll talk about our newly added IETs because you always have to be growing, and our career certificate IET programs. And then we are going to talk about My Florida Ready to Work. That's specific to Florida, but it's also part of the WIN Learning Group, and to show how we integrate employability skills and soft skills, as many call them. So that's the agenda for today. We're not going to read you our mission and vision statement, but we think it's important to have it there to explain a little bit about what we do. And as you see in our vision, it's right there: to remove barriers for educational growth for work opportunity. You'll probably hear me say it, and Eric as well, throughout this webinar, that we really want to convey to people, definitely during adult Education Family Literacy Week, that adult education is workforce education. And a lot of times people are separating the two, but the whole literacy component is to help our adult learners build their lives, upskill their lives, and get back to work.
And it's very important everyone has the same vision together to make the collaborations work effectively too.
Thank you, Eric. It's very true. So right here, Eric will share with you, and this is our updated information, and he'll explain why we think this is important to share.
So this is the Get There initiative from the state of Florida. Right now, there's over 136,000 adult learners that were enrolled in the last data quote. And of those, there's 338 integrated education and training programs trying to upskill people's lives, getting them industry credentials and moving them forward and helping them grow personally and professionally as well.
Thank you, Eric. So as you can see, that is an initiative in the state of Florida, and we've met many partners in other states that really believe in this initiative as well. So if you were ever involved in a previous initiative in advancing IET programs, one of the most important ways to get started is to be paying attention to your program design and collaboration. And so how do you get started, and where do you get these ideas from? So we wanted to share that before we even start an IET, we're looking at our local market needs. And so how do you do that? It's specific to your region and to where you are. So for us, our career source or our workforce, if you're in another state, partnerships help us figure out what are the needs in our community of our local employers. For us, we also have our space consortium. It's super important. We're in Brevard, and so that's where you launch rocket ships, and that's where we have a lot of space jobs and technician jobs. So our employers have a lot to do with space, and they're consistently telling us there's needs in the technician area that are jobs that haven't been created yet. So as we're creating these IETs and pre-apprenticeships, we're really looking to them for advice. Also, as you see, our little, we have something called the 922 crew. That's very local. Early on when we were in COVID in 2020, all of the non-for-profits, whether it was business, education, health, we all got together and said, we all provide a service. And instead of duplicating services, how can we get together and talk about the needs of our local community and to elevate people's lives and give them everything what they need in a collaborative focus? So that is something that has helped build our IETs as well. Eric, do you want to share about our industry engagement and a little bit about our partners?
Yeah, so we have, you'll see later on, we have a lot of apprenticeships, but we always have pre-apprenticeship committees. So we work closely with our apprenticeship groups so we know what the new standards are and the things they need so they can get jobs outside of our pre-apprenticeship. And hopefully they can go straight into a job or potentially go into the apprenticeship that's aligned with it. So we work with them very closely, and a lot of the apprenticeships are part of the industry. So it goes hand in hand, and is like a direct way to, we'll bring you the instructions to the students so they get their certification so then they can move into a job or to an apprenticeship.
Thank you, Eric. And so when you look at number one on our list there, Operation New Hope, we're addressing needs of the community and also all the adult learners. They are vast and they are in different places in their life. Operation New Hope is a re-entry program for those that were once incarcerated. And so we do partner with them, and that's a huge piece of our organization. Family Promise focuses on family homelessness, and so we provide some of our programs right in their facility to help those people that are experiencing homelessness possibly upskill their lives and work. So that's an important collaboration with us. Where you see Career Live on there, that was one of my ideas early on when we were kind of isolated in COVID. And instead of just working on work skills or learning about careers that weren't beneficial to students, we realized that there were so many things that our students didn't know how to do. How do you look for an application? How do you figure out what jobs are available in your community? How do you go back to school to a community college or a program or getting a skill set? And so we have something called Career Live every Thursday at Brevard Adult and Community Education, and we bring in employers once a week to talk about their story of how they got where they are, and then how you get employment, what they do, needs of the job. And it really helps our students see the broad perspectives throughout our community. And it also helps our students recognize that no opportunity is too big and they have an opportunity to get there. Eric spoke to the pre-apprenticeship committees, and those are super important in continuing to make sure we're offering the credentialing that is needed. And so we have conversations all the time. Industry guest speakers happen in Career Live, but they also happen in our pre-apprenticeship IET classes. Although you're working on the job training and you're teaching that related technical instruction, you also want the actual employers and the industry to come in and talk about the real world experience, to be able to meet your students and see their grit and see how awesome they are, because you want them to remember your students when they finish the program so that they can get back to work or join the apprenticeship in their country, in their community. Local chambers, very, very important. Sometimes they say in our community, you guys are everywhere. You have to be everywhere in adult education. If there's a tabletop somewhere in the community, I can guarantee you we're there. No space isn't for adult education. Every space is a place that you can find a potential employer, you can find a potential partner, or you can find a potential student for your program. So that is really just a bit of how the collaboration begins. And so I spoke a little bit about Career Live, and we're really proud of this. This continues to move along. I have one dedicated staff member who is our learning specialist who runs the Career Live and helps get the partners, but it's the job of the whole organization. As we meet people and we feel that they are a good fit for the Career Live, we bring them in. And so where do these people come from? They come from the workforce. We bring in our community leaders, local municipalities may speak. We bring in sheriff's department and the fire department and all these places so that our students can connect with people that they may not connect with. Or as we speak of, one of our most highly recognized last year experience was with a panel that we had that was so uniquely different. But an example would be, we had a lieutenant from the sheriff's department in our contiguous county. We had a man who flips homes that helps get mortgages for those who have housing or financial situations and helps them get back to, and we had a local representative that was running for the local common council. So 3 completely different perspectives, but bringing students together to hear their stories and to see how everybody in the community has a space. And all 3 of them agreed upon the importance of upskilling and the fact that getting your education, no matter at what time, is super important. These books that you see to the left, the vendor did not ask us to put these here. However, we love these books. They are called Career Power. They actually help English language learners, but I will tell you that we use them for all levels of our school. Adult high school, which is our students that are getting their actual local high school diploma, our GED students, and all our workforce students, all are given an activity in this book. So after Career Live, whatever skill set we're talking about that day, we amplify the literacy piece with this Career Power book. And we also, as you see Junior Achievement on there, we partner with Junior Achievement, and they come on about once a month and do an activity with our students as well to promote workforce and helping them get those skill sets that they need to get back to work. Eric, did you want to add anything?
No, I think it's very important that, like, going kind of back with our members during our pre-apprenticeship, like, so for construction, we'll invite even local municipalities to say, these are our jobs coming up. So it's always important, just keep on working with them. So even with the guest speaker saying, hey, this is what we do, but these are potential jobs that are coming. Just always have an open communication for the end result of, education and then employment. So I just want to reiterate that.
Awesome. Thank you. So right now we've been doing a lot of talking and we see your names, and I'm so excited that we have people here with us and from all over. I'm seeing different states, and I've been to a lot of states this summer. So you all have unique and different talents and pipelines that happen in your state. So we want to ask this question: what drives your IET design and collaboration, if you have one in your area? Or questions about what you think would be needed for collaboration if you're interested in starting up an IET. In our space provided, we wrote about our Florida Chamber of Commerce, Accelerated Brevard, which is one of our local chambers, and then Space Florida, which is an initiative from the federal government about locally here in Florida promoting space jobs. So Eric and I are both part of the Space Florida Consortium, and that's a space where employers and educators and the space industry get together to try to solve problems and figure out what skill sets and career certificates that and IET programs we should be building so that we can get people back to work. So if you want to just put any questions or comments about IET and collaboration in the chat, we'd be willing to talk and have a conversation about that. Let's see. Right now I have one that says we use our workforce development group, a one-stop shop, that would be like our career source, for employment of the community as well as local industry needs. Thank you, Caitlin, for sharing that. Yes, your local one-stop is a great place to start, and a lot of times they need that education provider to work with them. They have the work, but they really need us to help build those roles and build those jobs. So thank you for sharing. And New Readers Press, I see that on there. That was where the career power books we just talked about came from. Thank you, Tyler, for sharing, because I do agree with the books very much. He wrote that there are some scholarship opportunities through New Readers Press. Let's see what else we have. Tammy Brown told us that she also uses her workforce development training expenses, but they have limited funding. We deal with that too, we agree, in Florida. Where else do we find the funding for the training portion? Okay, so we absolutely go to our workforce board. We go locally to small grant opportunities. No grant is too small, is the way I always say. We obviously have the funding that comes from federal allocation right now that we're all pushing to continue to have, because that is a huge space that helps us fund our IET programs, and state appropriations. We write state appropriations every year if we need more building space, because obviously we usually can handle the operational budget, but when you need a new space, that's usually a tough place to get funding. So we've done that. We reach out to businesses that have scholarships. There's your Rotary clubs at a small scale, always have money to give out to programs. Local faith-based groups, even if it's a small amount of money, 10 churches with $500, a lot of times people say, oh, that's a lot of work for $500. That's not how we work here in Brevard Adult and Community Education. If somebody has something that they can provide to us, that's worth it to us, because it adds up, and if it helps one student, then you're in a really good space. Okay, so it looks like we've answered pretty much a lot of the needs, and everyone agrees that community industry needs to work together. So we'll move on to our next slide. So as you talk about, we first talked about how do we get a design, and then how do you make your choices in collaboration? The next thing is like, how do you choose your curriculum? Are you paying attention to your students? And how do you manage those programs once you get them started? So how do we figure out where our students are at, and how do we choose our curriculum? So we use TABE for our testing for our IET programs. We will tell you we are making a transition in the state of Florida. We are going to start using ACT work keys for our IET students, because we feel like that will be something that we're going to enjoy trying. And we think that that is much more related to what they're doing in their workforce skills. So that transition we are going to make. For our English language learners, we CASAS test them, and we figured out what level we're at, so we can provide that integrated educational training support with that contextual reading. As we know, a lot of the curriculum for our skills and our job-based programs, the reading levels tend to be at a 10th grade or above. And so we definitely need that wrap around with our English language learners, as well as our GED and adult high school students. And that's the job of our IET teacher. In our programs, most of them are a 2-teacher model, synchronous at the same time, unless the teacher has both skills. And I can explain that as our paraprofessional IET person is a teacher, so they're already that occupational teacher. and they have the skills to work on differentiating and giving the needs they have because they're a teacher. So that would be a one teacher model. But for an example, if it was a manufacturing IET, we have an on-the-job occupational manufacturing teacher that knows that skill set, and then we're bringing in a teacher who will help break down that material, provide reinforcement, and work alongside that teacher to help manage that program. Eric, do you want to share anything more about the program management?
Yeah, and also kind of like reducing the barriers for student transportation. If we need to, we have opportunities to go get students and bring them to our campus. And then, like we mentioned earlier, we hold other places in the community to hold classes. So we kind of go to them sometimes. So it makes that barrier of transportation off the student, and then so we can give them the opportunity.
Absolutely. And you see my Florida Ready to Work on there. We'll go into more detail on that in a later slide, but we believe that every single IET program needs a component for employability skills, and it's written right into our standards. And so that's how we're able to support that. As in our ESOL component with our students that are working in IET, the platform we choose to use besides Burlington English for the reading to support the occupational piece, we use Engine, and we partner with them, and they have multiple platforms within their platform that match occupations. And so that helps with some videos and some review of vocabulary and helping those students break down the contextual reading if it is difficult for them. The one thing we put in place last year, which helps with program management, which we'll be completely honest, we're still perfecting. You see at the end of the slide, IET PLC. You definitely need a professional learning community that you can pull all the teachers that work in occupation together and those teachers that are teachers. Our occupation teachers are coming from industry, and not all of them have taught. They know their material, but they're not necessarily teachers. And we also know that all of them can work for each other. Like, why create the wheel? So pulling them together and making sure they're all on the same page, they know how to use all our platforms. We learned that we needed to give some more support in that area. So the IET PLC is continuing to grow. We always had professional learning communities in our adult education program for GED or for our ESOL teachers, but we did not have one specifically for our IET teachers. So that's something that we've done to help with the program management. Okay, so it is Family Literacy Week, and I couldn't not add a slide. And this is something that we think is unique, and we'd love to hear in the chat if anyone does something like this that we're doing, because we're super proud of this. It was one of my visions. My team knows when I have a vision, sometimes I don't know where I'm going with it, but I have a great team, and they run with things because I'm very passionate about how do we continue to bring it back to workforce. So on the left, and you are the first one seeing this, this is hot off the press. We haven't even given it out yet. This book called Sammy the Seahorse, Skills Ahoy, has been written by the Leadership Adult Education at Brevard Adult and Community Education team as an AI project. So I had this idea to write a book about a seahorse, because he is our mascot, that knows how to solve problems, how to learn workforce skills, and to just make great things in the community. And so the book is going to be previewed next Tuesday. And what you see in the picture there is last year's field trip. The best way to recruit and retain adult education is to do it within your own district. So we bring our first grade students on a bus to our construction building, because they have construction in their social studies curriculum this time of the year. And we bring them in and we do activities on safety. You can see Mr. Kohler there showing them how the tools work. They get activities from Home Depot, and we go through all the things about how construction is important. We show how all kinds of jobs that can
for
happen.
safety. Yeah.
And it's really, really, really excited. And they walk away, as you see the blue hats there, with a hard hat. And it, of course, has our logo, Brevard Adult and Community Education. And in the past, we sent them home with a trade book that was of a seahorse with our recruitment materials. However, I wanted a book that doesn't exist, so we wrote it. So that Sammy the Seahorse Skills Ahoy is about workforce education. So if you are coming to ACE of Florida, which is our state conference, one of my instructors will be doing a presentation on recruitment and retention. And if you're on this webinar, you just will get a copy of the Sammy the Seahorse book. So we're pretty proud of it, and we think it does promote family literacy, parents reading to their students. And we know that there's parents within our own school district, and if those students bring home the materials, then maybe they will join our programs.
Yes.
Okay, so we haven't heard from you in a few minutes, and so we'd love to hear from you. And as we hear from you, I will tell you a little bit about these two pictures. So what we want to know are what some barriers and successes that you've had with your current IET programs, if you have them, or some barriers maybe you've had to starting up an IET program. So just put some stuff in the chat and we will be happy to answer, but I want to talk about these two pictures because these are my heart. And this is what adult education is all about. And I'm sure Eric will jump in after me because we are super passionate about this. So the photo on my left, I guess your left as well, is one of our students named Phyllis. And she was a 2025 graduate of Brevard Adult and Community Education after being in our program for 8 years. She was an IET graduate. As you can see in her photo, she's got a silver cord on. We've started giving silver cords to our IET graduate to signify the importance of getting your workforce as well as your diploma. Phyllis worked very, very tirelessly to finish all 4 GED classes. If you see on her feet, this is the story that will probably touch your heart and touches my heart. She's wearing a pair of silver sneakers there. And so we do a gala every year for our students to promote our IET programs and to promote adult education. And our gala was in April to celebrate our adult learners and also to twofold, get our community to know what we offer. And I wore, it's formal. So I wore a silver dress and I was going to dance the night away. So I had silver sneakers on. And when I saw Phyllis at the gala, she commented on my sneakers. And then I went in to talk to her about graduation because she had one more test. And she's like, Miss Benjamin. I was like, Phyllis, you're going to graduate this year. And she said, I think you should give me your silver sneakers. And I said, Phyllis, I'm not giving you my sneakers, but guess what? You're going to take this test. And when you graduate, I'm buying you these sneakers and you're going to wear those across the stage and I'm going to wear them too. And I went out and bought her sneakers. I asked her shoe size. And the day of graduation, she made her final attempt to pass her last portion of the GED. And she passed the test. I handed her her sneakers. And that was the night that she walked the stage. So she has her paraprofessional as well as her GED. The graduate to the right is a 2024 graduate from Brevard Adult and Community Education. She is also a student ambassador. She was in the student ambassador program for COAB last year. We brought her with us and she was in our program in 2024, received her language acquisition. We hired her as our GED clerk who runs our GED testing lab. And I can proudly say that I just hired her this week. And October 31st will be her first day. She's being promoted to my administrative secretary, and she will work directly for me. So people do succeed, and she did all the programs, and now she's working within her organization and as a student ambassador to support our IET programs.
Yeah, both of these individuals are well deserving of everything they received. Yeah, Phyllis, while she's working her paraprofessional certification, she was also in the classroom, basically assisting the teacher, working with any individuals that was needing help. So she was kind of doing the role without the certification, and she always helped everyone. And Takako, yeah, is great. Always a smile on her face, always willing to help, and just they're great individuals.
So thank you, Eric. And I'm looking in the chat and I love what people are saying when they're talking about their successes. And, thank you for congratulating our students because we're super proud of them too. But you're exactly right that if you support your learners with motivation and perseverance, they can do anything. Direct marketing and strategic planning, Kenneth, I agree with you 100%. That's how you connect. you can never do too much recruitment and retention, and you can never stay in the box. The other day, my the cabinet level of facilities in my own organization, because I'm always trying to think of new and innovative ways to continue to build programs. I said, well, you know me, I'm always pushing. And she said to me, Lorri Benjamin, you are so far outside the box. And I took that as the biggest compliment ever, because you got to be outside the box, because you have to think of ways that you're continuously there to look for educational programs that combine with workforce, and that you're really adding to your IET programs. You may start one, but you may realize that there's many, many pathways that can continue to elevate it and make it even better than when you started it.
Any more in the chat? I think we're good. Okay.
Okay, so we talked about pre-apprenticeship IET pathways, which was we call it our baby, because I started with the first pre-apprenticeship IET programs in the state of Florida when we went to starting IET in 2021. I had already had one pre-apprenticeship program, and when I saw what IET was, it just seemed like a perfect parallel. I'm going to let Eric talk a little bit about these programs, because when I hired Eric on before he was promoted to assistant director, he was the learning specialist over workforce. So he walked in and he really did take over these programs and even taught one of these programs. So I'll let Eric talk about our pathways.
So if you see it on the screen, there's our new 2 buildings. They're great buildings. So our pre-apprenticeship ranges between 6 months and 9 months, and 120 hours to 185 hours. And we'll kind of go through each one individually in a minute. Telecommunication technician is a new one that we're going to tie in with cybersecurity. So we haven't had a cohort of that one yet, but we are excited, as well as the truck driver heavy. We have you can't see it in the picture, but we have a huge CDL track that is, we're just waiting for final touches from the state to give us the go ahead. But we'll be doing our own apprenticeship for CDL for the state of Florida. But these are just focusing on our pre-apprenticeship ones. And the one she was mentioning, I still do and assist, but construction is the one I help with. Always get a great set of students in that classroom for sure.
Yes, one of his cohorts was great. And they're in a photo you'll see going down the road. That's the other thing we believe is the most important piece of recruitment and retention. I don't use stock photos. And if I do, it's just something. I don't use stock photos of people. Every one of our photos and what we do is one of our students. They were a student, they are a student. We want things to be real and effective. So one day I needed a new construction picture. It was Eric's cohort. I went in, they put on their construction hard hats, and they put on the aprons, and they got the shovels, and they were ready to help us do that as well. Another piece, when we talk about pre-apprenticeship, Eric did speak that we have one apprenticeship program. Also, you need to think, if it doesn't exist in your area, then be that. Create it yourself. There wasn't an apprenticeship for our pre-apprenticeship, and in the state of Florida, our pre-apprenticeship programs and apprenticeship programs fall under the Department of Education, not under the Department of Labor. So we couldn't create our truck driver heavy until we had an apprenticeship to attach to it. So we created our apprenticeship program. And as he talked about, we reimagined a middle school track into a commercial driver's license range. And we have our 3 trucks out there, and we're ready to go. So we're excited about how our programs have continued to grow. We kind of focused on the manufacturing continuum, as you see up there. Construction, SolidWorks being advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity is in every job program. Logistics is about warehouse management. Obviously, the trucks take all the materials and supplies everywhere. And telecommunications is how you communicate with everyone. That has to do with broadband. And so the easiest way to explain that is those really tall cell phone towers. That is a huge industry that needs lots of technicians. All right, and I will let Eric kind of explain each of our pathways in a little more detail. And if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will try to give you anything that we haven't shared.
So each one of these we'll go through. I broke them down for the purpose. So the SolidWorks is 160 hours, and it's also a 9-month program. It's an intro level for manufacturing, but it's a great certification. They get a certified SolidWorks when they're done. the CPT certification, and later on we'll mention the Florida Ready to Work skills, and they get their employability, academic, and their soft skills. And earlier we were talking about going to like different regions and everything. Most employers are saying one of the biggest issues is soft skills for employment. So that's one of the reasons why we have them earn that certification in all of our programs, just to give them that leg up on getting employment.
So we have a question in the chat, Eric, asking about our previous slide about junior achievement. And this is with Susan. Susan, yes, actually junior achievement does, and it's very recent. So we've been working with them 2 years. They do work with adult education. So you can reach out to your chapters to see if your chapter of junior achievement does. They work in our high schools, is still in the traditional sense, and they even work in elementary schools, but they absolutely work with adults, and their focus is on that career, soft skills, and it works very well with our career live and our clusters. So absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, some of our adult learners will be in adult high school at age 16. So there is a carryover there too as well. So this is some data from our last cohorts. The SolidWorks is one of our smallest groups. It is a challenging certification. So if you notice throughout the years, those program enrollments for those times, there isn't a large amount, but they do get really good certifications coming out of it. Our last one, we only had 3. 2 of them completed the program. 2 of them earned an industry cert for the CPT, and then 1 earned the SolidWorks certification as well.
And so SolidWorks, as we said before, is advanced manufacturing. And so if you think about it, if you're not familiar with what it is, it's like 3D rendering. And so how it fits in advanced manufacturing is they would be able to look at the model, turn the model, do things to the model in a 3D manual. It works well with your manufacturing, the CNC machines. When you're cutting pipe metal or you're building a product, it's very expensive if you make the wrong cuts. So practicing it in the 3D level, then maybe rectifying it with a 3D printer before using it on the machinery, that's kind of where we go. And for those of you who don't know acronyms, the CPT is Certified Production Technician. That's what that stands for. And it actually goes across multiple. It's a great certification to get because it goes over the 4 components, and it also talks about quality. And so we use that in a few of our programs. So as Eric said, this is one of our smaller programs, but what I want to say is when you talk about mission and vision, one of my missions is if there is somebody in a cohort when we recruit it, no cohort is too small. So I believe that one success for each cohort is a success because you've upskilled a student. Not everyone believes that way, and a lot of people have to have a specific number to start programs. And I understand we all have rules and laws and data, but if we're really focusing on ideals of being an adult education program and promoting literacy, which is workforce, every person that succeeds is working towards success. So that is our premise here. And so that's why we run them. If we have people, they run.
All right, so another pathway is our construction. It's 185 hours. It goes over 9 months. Most of our students work during the day. So all these courses happen at night, like a Tuesday and a Thursday for like 3 hours a night, or a Monday and Wednesday. So usually it's 2 days a week for about 3.5 hours each class. That's why it runs as long as it does, but we're working with individuals that have a life, but they're also trying to upskill themselves to get a better job. Our construction, if you notice our certifications, they get a lot in the construction one. So in the 9 months, they can walk out with their CPR, the OSHA 10, NCCR certification, their CPT as well, and then also those Florida Ready to Work soft skills and academic skills. Some of them get the actual digital skill as well, which that would be all 3 from my Florida Ready to Work.
Okay, so we got a question in the chat again. Hi, Susan, keep the questions coming, and anyone else feel free. No question is too small or big, and if we can't answer it, we will find the information. So Susan's saying she's new to pre-apprenticeship program, and she's asking, do our students come to you with the job, or how does this work? They do not come to us with the job. They may actually be coming to us with a job like they're working, but our goal is to get them that core skill set, and then our apprenticeship sponsors are where they can go to get that job. Now, there also is the case that they may not go on. The goal is to join the apprenticeship, but there may be an employer through their experiences that will pick them up to work. What they can also do is find a job in that career path as their pre-apprenticeship, and that can count as their on-the-job training skills for apprenticeship will count towards it when they choose that apprenticeship. So different pathways. Now, there can be, and we have not created one yet, where an entire company decides to send a group of entry-level employees into our pre-apprenticeship program, so they are in fact employed by them. We have not had a cohort of that yet, but that is something that's been explored. Hopefully I've answered your question.
So here's some more data. If you see an asterisk, that means, so for like the January 2025, that class just ended September 2nd. If individuals are close to completing their industry certification and they want an extension through our pre-apprenticeship through the Department of Education, I put that request in. So there's some individuals that might roll over to the next cohort. So that's what those asterisks means. Under the industry certifications, those are for the CPT. However, there's a lot more on there. So like that number doesn't represent how many individuals got their CPR, because those don't fall into our master credential list. So those, if you look at the program completer, those are closer to the ones that received all the other certifications that I mentioned prior.
Absolutely. And as you can see, I believe in multiple chances for adult learners. So that is different in different programs as well. Some, if the students don't pass, that's the only attempt they get. We try to give our students multiple opportunities. In the beginning, when it was very early and we were happy that people were coming to school because it was early in COVID when we weren't coming to school, there would be multiple tests. What we do and what our policies in our program is, they get 2 attempts at every single test at no cost to them, because in the state of Florida, a pre-apprenticeship program under the statute is free to students. If they are beyond 2 attempts, they can still take it again, but they'll have to pay for it themselves. You will see that once they are that committed and they have tried, they want those certifications and they will go back. But generally, most people who actually either extend the program and extend their learning because maybe they need to work on the academic reading again, generally they will pass. So extenders generally have a pretty good success rate.
All right, so this is our pre-apprenticeship for cybersecurity. It's 120 hours and it is 6 months long. The data that you're going to see is for the CompTIA ITF certification. It did change. So our next cohort will be CompTIA Tech Plus certification. But for this purpose, since we haven't started a cohort, I just kept this in there for now. And again, this is the only cohort that we actually require them to receive their digital skills through My Florida Ready to Work as well, because it complements the cybersecurity realm. On top of this cybersecurity pathway, our next opportunity will be that telecommunications as well. If they want to choose that, it's an additional 30 hours on top of the 120 if they want to go through that pathway. Just giving the information about that new one that's coming.
And so for our cybersecurity, back to people asking like, how do we fund things and how do we get programs up and running? Cybersecurity was an exciting one. We were given an opportunity in our region that there was funding for the Treasure Coast and Space Coast. And so at that point, I wrote for a Pathways to Career Opportunities grant so that we could start a cybersecurity program, because what we were hearing from industry was, A+ and networking is very, very difficult. And we didn't have enough people who had the entry level skill to be able to get this. So that is why we chose the cybersecurity. And so Eric will show you the data very quickly.
Yep. So we have a big interest. Again, this was a 6-month program. So it's hard to maintain all the way through 25 to the end. But so if you notice, we had, 12 program completers. So they sat for the test. Unfortunately, they didn't pass the test, but they did complete our program and the training for it. And of those, like in August of 2024, 4 of them got the industry cert. Then in December, that was a smaller group. We had a transition. Well, like we always are transparent. So we had a transition within teachers. So that was an awkward trying to transition. So that cohort was a little bit smaller. That's why we have the results that we do. But we keep on moving forward, doing the best we can for adult learners.
And as you see, You do lose students sometimes, and that happens through attrition. We don't like that. We want to find them. We might bring them back in a new cohort. But what I look at is, okay, we might have lost some, but the 3 we had also received their certifications. And also, if you look in our data, everybody that's in the program is an IET student. So that is part of how you get your programs going, because it doesn't matter if you brought someone in with a bachelor's degree. Once you test them for TABE, there is some need that they have, and you'd be very surprised where people fall, even that may come in to your program that has their high school diploma, but they do have a need and a skill base. So it's really great to be able to provide those academic supports within IET.
Okay, our next one is our logistics. It's a 6-month program as well. It's 120 hours. This is a 2-part test. So they get a CLA and a CLT, as you see underneath the certification outcomes. For them to be able to sit for the CLT, they do have to pass the CLA, so that could affect your overall achievement numbers. But the great news, if you see the picture on the bottom, that is our language learning class. And our last cohort, we had 8 people sit for both tests, and then we had 8 people pass. So that was really exciting for us on that group.
And that's a single teacher model, because our teacher there, Miss Byther, was in the military. So she is both logistics and the ESOL teacher. We're going to quickly show you a video that we're really proud of. The state of Florida chose some schools to promote our programs, and we were lucky to be able to choose one of our students. And this is an IET student in the pathway of ESOL.
I understand the American dream is only is possible if you work hard. But when I start the result course, I understand the course is not only about the grammatical. It's a course about the American culture, because it's very important to understand when you live, to integrate the community is very important. After 3 months, I start the English course. I saw in the school the advertisement about the logistics course. It's good because I need to do other things that complement my English. The certification provided you a big opportunity to enter in this camp. The finish is only the start, but is an opportunity to work in other areas in the United States. Você pode fazer. I can do it.
And we're really proud of Fernando. He went on to the community college after getting his logistics, and he received both certifications, as well as he went from a level 4 at his language acquisition to a level 8. I have a question here in the chat from Wanda, and she was asking about the new assessment. And thank you for putting that in there for us. It is Workforce Keys assessment. That is what we'll be using. Okay, Eric, if you want to just share about the logistics, I think we've got about 8 to 10 minutes left.
Okay, so I'll go through this really quick. So we had our first cohort of corrections. You see the asterisks there. It's a learning curve. They're very transient, but we did have 2 people pass the CLA of that group, and we were working with them to get in them as an extender to try their CLT again. But I do like to highlight the August ESOL group that we started with 9. One of them trailed off in the very beginning, but of the 8 that stayed with the class, all 8 completed, all 8 earned their CLT certifications. And then in December, we had a smaller cohort, and those 2 that aren't on there, they're actually going to be coming back to as an extender.
Excellent. And we talked about paraprofessional. That was one we started early on as a community class. We also offer community classes, and many of you probably do as well. We call them lifelong learning classes, or those for leisure, rec and leisure, we call them in our district, so that we can provide opportunity for students. So this became an IET because Brevard Public Schools is one of the biggest employers in Brevard County. And in COVID and continuing on, getting a paraprofessional, there's always openings in our district for that. So we use a platform with our skill set. It's about 96 hours. We modifying it based on it. And they take the test for paraprofessional exam, and they do the ready to work, and then they can work as a paraprofessional in our district.
And we, this is a short film, 1 minute. So this would be highlighting one of our paraprofessional IET students.
Graduate of
Growing up, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I could just feel it. I originally enrolled into the GED program so that I could get my high school diploma. And then I always knew that my plan was going to be to become a teaching assistant. It is a self-paced program, but I felt the pressure that I needed to keep going for myself to be able to reach and become a graduate. My teachers are probably my biggest asset. I think it gives me hope. It gives me an accomplishment. It promotes my future by giving me the ability to do anything in a teaching field. It has helped set the pace. Getting a diploma is going to get me so much farther than without. And then knowing that I had that IET program with having the IA, by doing it tandemly, I can literally just go right to the school. I think if you set a goal and you really want to reach it, you'll do everything you possibly can to do it. If you feel the love for wanting to get forward, you'll make time for it if you really want to. It doesn't matter what happens.
And Cheyenne was very, very successful and wanted to get back in as an instructional assistant because she had 5 children and she wanted to work while her children were in school. So what an accomplishment that was for her.
Yep, so here's a little bit more data. I won't go through it because we have 8 more minutes, but we also track who gets picked up in our district as well from an IA afterwards.
So yeah, we like to track that data to see if they're getting back to work and where they work, and we like to spotlight that. Yep. All right.
And we mentioned this earlier, we have some new added IETs. It's always important to look what the demand is. We have a cohort of pharmacy tech going on right now, which we have not finished, so I don't have any data on that one. Healthcare, we had 1 cohort, which we had 6 people pass to get their CNA. They challenged a test to get their CNA licensure. And then the truck driver heavy is coming soon with an IET for getting is a pre-apprenticeship for their Class C. We have the apprenticeship will get their Class A, B, and C, but the pre-apprenticeship will get you a Class C.
Paul has a question. Yes, Paul. The academic employability soft skills are through Win Learning in Florida. The program's called Florida Ready to Work, but yes, it is the Win Learning group. And also, when we were talking about the last slide with the challenging the test for the CNA, we teach healthcare standards. That was primarily a group of language learners. That healthcare cohort is a language learner cohort as well. The teacher that was the ESOL teacher teaching those skills also sat for the test. And by teaching the skill set, she also received her CNA. So now she actually has the certification and is ready to start a new cohort. Actually, orientation is next week.
And then we have a career certificate program for automotive. It is newly an IET. It's a 2-year program. They get all their ASC, A1 through A8. We are working on adding some NC3 certifications as well to our program. So there's more coming to this, and we are excited to have this career certificate program as an IET as well. There's something very good.
So many of you have been asking about the Florida Ready to Work. And if you are not in Florida, I would explore the Win Learning Group. I know they're in multiple areas, and they're also recognized by the National Work Readiness Council. So many of you are familiar with the National Work Readiness Council. I think that if you're going to use employability skills, you should use something that's nationally recognized or credentialing. Because if you were to ask employers or ask anyone around your area, everybody has a different belief of what a soft skill or an employability or work skill is. But if you keep things standard, your students really will enjoy it. It's a requirement in my adult education program, regardless if you were an IET student or any student. Every single student needs to have a credentialing from Florida Ready to Work to graduate and walk the stage. And we're going to show you some data on the next page to show how much we've elevated this process. There's employability skills, soft skills, and digital skills. And Eric spoke to that our cybersecurity students are required to do the soft skills and digital skills. Our students that aren't in IET are required to take employability skills. If a student is a late starter and maybe doesn't have much more to do, the rule is they must sit for at least one certificate before they graduate. And as you can see, we got our data from 2024 when we really pushed it. And you can see that credentials started at 48, but we were getting certificates. And if you look at last year, from 48 to 830 credentials, getting 434 certificates. And the work and the scenarios for students is nothing but excellent. Our students love it. There is a dedicated time between the academic programs and in the IET programs to do this Florida Ready to Work. And I encourage you, if you're in the state of Florida, to really continue, add this to your adult education program, because it is literacy. So it is another great thing that our students can walk away with. And if you are in the state of Florida, another interesting piece when they graduate, it is signed by the governor, and that kind of is very exciting to students. And again, if you're not in the state of Florida, it's still an opportunity for you.
Yeah, and then I mean, as like I mentioned earlier, I used to teach the construction class, and I would have students who would complete some of these soft skills and come to me and be like, I really some of these skills I learned actually kept my job that I have right now, like how to handle certain situations in the workplace. So they are really good skills to have, and it's a great platform for the students.
Paul has another question. Yes, Paul, there are other nationally recognized. I've chose this program because Florida Ready to Work is recognized in our state. Obviously, we are going to be using ACT Work Keys as our testing component, but ACT Work Keys is also a program that you could have that works on these employability skills. However, with my research, this was the one that I've chose for my program, and I've had great results. So this is kind of the pathway I went, but there are others. Okay, so that comes to the end of our presentation. Eric and I are really excited that we got to share, and I hope the passion came out of how much we love IET and how much it has elevated the lives of our adult learners, and we believe that can elevate the lives of yours. I don't know how much time we have left, but we are looking in the chat, and we will take questions right until our time is up. I have a question right here that says, does every adult ed graduate have to pass at least one part of the Ready to Work? That is absolutely correct, Natalie. That's required in my program. And because if they leave, they need to be ready for workforce. As I said in the beginning of this webinar, adult education is workforce education. So I need to be able to have their diploma and something that says that they are workforce ready.
Do we have any other questions for Lorri and Eric? Everybody's raised some great questions, and really appreciate you, Lorri and Eric, for sharing all the great things that you're doing in Florida. I just had a quick question. I saw your stats had increased a lot in the past year. I know the previous year was only October through May. Could you point to any factors that resulted in the increase in the number of students you're serving?
So
Oh,
it's
go ahead.
kind of funny. I mean, what we will say is we opened more cohorts of IET students in outreaches instead of having it in one specific place. So I think that added to our cohort increase. We did start the cohort in reentry, which we both agree needs a lot of work to make sure that we can make that work, but we're always willing to start a new cohort somewhere else. I think that is where you see the change. We believe that the community is really starting to come into this program. What we will tell anyone where we need to do better, besides our English language learner students, our GED and our adult high school students, are ones that are actually in our program. We need to do a better job of recruiting our own students to take our classes before they leave, and that's starting to increase. So I think those are some of the changes you're seeing, because in the beginning, most of our IET students were coming outside of our programs and joining our programs, and our own students were still taking the traditional route.
So don't forget to recruit in your own backyard, in other words.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, very good. Well, thank everyone so much for attending today's session, and a special thank you for Lorri and Eric for sharing their knowledge and energy and passion in the IET space, and really appreciate you being part of this COA webinar. We do offer webinars every month based on various themes, and we do have another one coming up at the end of the month. If you wanted more information about IETs and apprenticeships, so you won't want to miss that one. And a link was pasted in the chat earlier. So looks like Wanda had one more question that was just in the chat.
So Wanda, I hope you took our information. We'd be more than happy to meet with you in a one-on-one in a Zoom and just talk about more things and more questions that you have. And you can email us because I think it's doable in any program. You just have to get started, and starting small is okay. A lot of times people think it has to be giant for it to work. You have to build, walk before you run, crawl before you walk. So absolutely, be more than happy to help you in any way.
Well, Lori, would you mind putting your contact info in the chat for
I
Wanda and
will.
others who may be interested in finding out some more information? And thank you in advance for sharing the information and your excitement about IETs and pre-apprenticeships and career pathways was contagious, absolutely. But thank you all both so much for everything that you did. And there's Lori's information in the chat. We're getting just lots of hearts here coming up from everyone that was here. We had a question from Natalie that came up in the Q&A that says, when you say they must sit for one credential, are you saying they have to pass at least one?
Yes. So when you take Florida Ready to Work, you can do different levels, which is teaching them and doing the classwork. And then there is to get the actual certification. So they work within the platform to get their skill set up. Once they feel ready, they need to choose. So like we had said, employability skills is for all students that maybe not be an IET. Our IET students all need to take soft skills. And our cybersecurity IET students need to take digital skills. Our English language learner students also have to take one program. Generally, we let them take, depending on their acquisition level, they may do a soft skill or a digital skill. So there is some leeway into what we allow, but nobody sits for graduation without their certificate in hand. So we print a lot of certificates at graduation because that is the requirement to get me to sign off on graduation.
Very good. Well, I see no more questions, but thank you everyone for being here today. And thank you again, Lori and Eric, and we look forward to seeing you at a future webinar.
Thank you. We appreciate it.